There are creatures lurking in the woods of the California Sierra Nevada mountains, and Sasquatch might just be one of them. For 18 years, I've traveled the world on board a luxury cruise ship. I've gone to many exotic lands and have had many exciting experiences. But nothing can compare to the encounter I had deep in the forests of the California Sierra Nevada mountains when, while on a solo backpacking trip, I had a face-to-face encounter with a Sasquatch. I'm Darren Smith. Join me on my personal quest to solve this mystery. Hello and welcome to SquatchBot.com. I'm Darren Smith, and I want to thank you for joining me on my journey. And I want to send a special thank you out to those of you who have recently subscribed. And I do appreciate the comments and the nice messages you have been sending me. One such comment comes from Mike Myers, who commented on last week's post. As you recall, last week I was trying to gain access to the Chowchilla River to investigate a bridge along Highway 49 where the locals were saying there was a family of Sasquatch living underneath. Unfortunately, I was unable to access the bridge. Either the terrain was just too steep, or I encountered clearly marked "State, no trespassing" signs. Mike's question was, why do I think there are so many no trespassing signs in this area? And he goes on to theorize that somebody was aware of the Sasquatch's existence underneath this bridge, and they were posted those signs to keep other people from venturing into the area. And Mike, to tell you the truth, that's exactly what I thought of when I encountered the signs during my investigation. But rest assured that the investigation continues, and we will get to the bottom of it. For those of you following my channel, you know that in 2012 I had a sighting of a Sasquatch while on a solo backpacking trip in the California Sierra Nevada mountains. Following that encounter, I did some aerial reconnaissance using Google Earth to try and ascertain why the Sasquatch was in that particular location. And when I did, I made an interesting discovery. That particular spot is a choke point between two very prominent valleys in that area. And anything that wants to move from the lower valley to the upper valley has to pass through this very narrow forested corridor. In fact, the corridor is only about 140 feet across at its most narrow spot. And I thought this was a perfect opportunity for me to set up some cameras and hopefully capture a photograph of this elusive beast. And the beginning of summer of 2013, that's exactly what I did when I launched my Sierra Nevada mountain camera project. What began as a fun summer hobby has turned into a very ambitious extended project. At the end of the summer of 2013, when I went to retrieve the cameras, I was encouraged by the local residents and U.S. Forest Service to keep the cameras in position. Everyone was enjoying the footage I was receiving, and with the recent Sasquatch sightings that were being reported in the area, I saw this as an opportunity I could not overlook. And that's how the project began in the beginning of summer of 2013, and the cameras have been recording ever since. The cameras I've been using for this project have been the Reconyx Hyperfire and the Bushnell Trophy Cam. The Reconyx Hyperfire will take 5 photographs in rapid succession. What's nice about this camera is it has a no-glow infrared sensor and its trigger speed is very fast. The other camera, the Bushnell Trophy Cam, will take high-definition video clips with sound. And what's great about this camera is it's very affordable and the footage that you'll receive is amazing. And to keep these cameras running, I use Energizer's Ultra Lithium batteries. These batteries are a bit expensive, but if you buy them in bulk, it'll really help in costs, and it keeps my cameras running for well over a year. When setting up your cameras, there are a few things you want to keep in mind, many of which I discovered through trial and error. First, you want to be careful not to set your cameras up where there is a lot of brush or direct sunlight. The cameras are looking for heat and movement, and if there's a lot of brush in view of the camera, the sunlight will increase its temperatures. And if there's wind, presto, heat and movement. And there's nothing worse than discovering a memory card that's filled with wind shots. Also, it's best to set up your cameras underneath the forest canopy, away from direct sunlight, and relatively sheltered from wind. This setup was well done. With the exception of the little pine tree to the left, there was almost no false triggering due to movement of brush. Also, when you pick a location to set up your cameras, it can be very strategic to set them up in a way that uses natural barriers to drive the animals past your cameras. This game trail ran along a pretty steep slope, and the camera was set up among a cluster of trees. The animals moving through this area found walking past the camera was the path of least resistance. Here's another example of a physical barrier that was funneling animals past the camera. The rock in the background was the barrier. Although this looked like a good location, the camera is facing an area that was getting a lot of direct sunlight, and when the wind picked up, I got a gazillion false triggers. Also, that although you can get some very dramatic photographs when you position your cameras low to the ground, sometimes it can be difficult to interpret what you see. When my brother, who was a non-believer, saw these photographs, he thought I finally had the irrefutable evidence I needed to prove the existence of Sasquatch. I let him chew on that for a while until I finally shared the final shots of that sequence. There is plenty of information online with tips and tricks on how to set up your game cameras properly, and when you do finally set them up well, the footage you receive can be truly rewarding. Since I launched this project back in 2013, I have obtained tens of thousands of photographs and countless hours of high-definition video footage of the local wildlife. And there's nothing more amazing than to watch animals in their natural habitat doing what animals do. Like this little guy discovering just how cold and difficult it is to traverse deep snow. And since this project has begun, I've encountered a number of mysteries. The footage you are about to see is from a camera that was set up in a very remote location. For some reason, this camera malfunctioned and its time date stamp is incorrect. What you are about to see happened at the stroke of midnight, deep in the forests of the California Sierra Nevada mountains. There was no human activity recorded on any camera that day. Again, this camera was set up in a very remote area deep in the forests of the California Sierra Nevada mountains. There were no humans up there. So what's causing this flashing light? I must admit, when I first saw this footage, I became quite excited. What would cause this sort of flashing deep in the forest in the middle of the night? However, it didn't take me long to solve this mystery. To break it down, I first counted the number of flashes. 5 flashes. The mystery is solved. As you recall, the Reconyx Hyperfire camera is set up to take 5 photographs in rapid succession. What you're seeing is the infrared flash that's emanating from one of the Reconyx Hyperfire cameras. What happened was I had 2 cameras that were facing one another in an attempt to solve another mystery. As an animal moved through the area, it actually triggered both cameras almost simultaneously. And since the Bushnell Trophy Cam was using night vision to record, it was able to see the infrared flash that was emanating from the Reconyx Hyperfire camera. To test this theory, I set up 2 cameras in roughly the same position. I triggered them simultaneously and I ended up with the same results. When the Bushnell Trophy Cam is using night vision to record, it is able to see infrared light. This mystery is solved. Once you have your cameras set up in a good location, and you have those cameras set up properly, if you leave the cameras there for a long duration, not only do you get to see the interesting animals moving through the area, but you also get to see the change of seasons, and sometimes that change could be very dramatic. This episode is coming to an end, but before it does, I want to leave you with one more mystery. In the winter of 2014, while a dear friend who I consider a niece, Miss Katie Sullivan, and I were retrieving the memory cards from cameras that were previously deployed, we both noticed curious rock stacks that were in very close proximity to the cameras. At first we didn't think much about it. However, on the following June, when I came to check on the cameras, I discovered numerous rock stacks positioned just outside of the camera's view. I've discussed this phenomenon with a number of Sasquatch researchers, and many believe it is, in fact, Sasquatch activity. The common belief among the researchers is that the Sasquatch are stacking these rocks in an attempt to warn others of its kind to steer clear of the cameras. For sure, it is an interesting mystery, and at present, it still remains unsolved. For sure, the most likely explanation to these rock stacks is human activity. Even though these cameras are set up in a very remote area, deep in the forests of the Sierra Nevada mountains, on rare occasions, humans do stumble upon them. Like these two characters. Thank you for joining me, and happy Thanksgiving! I hope that you enjoyed this brief look into the camera project that I've been running in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and I'm curious to what you think about the rock stacks that are appearing next to my cameras. If you do think that it is Sasquatch activity, like the numerous researchers I've been sharing this information with, then what exactly is a Sasquatch? I'm curious to what you think. Please leave your comments in the comment section below, and we'll be sharing some of this information on our next episode. Until then, have a great week, and I'll see you here next time at squatchbot.com. Our quest is just beginning, so be sure to subscribe to this channel so you will be updated on future videos. In the weeks to come, we'll be heading into the mountains to conduct field research. We'll be doing follow-up investigations on recent sightings, and we'll be meeting some special guests and having some fun along the way. Be sure to visit squatchspot.com, the .com spot for all things Squatch.